Miriam Keller is the planning executive and tells Chris and Amy she's not pro or anti-data center.
I think it's putting the city in a position to be very cautious and thoughtful and have enough information to kind of review every specific proposal based on its specifics.
The recommendations will be discussed at a public hearing Wednesday at 5:30. That'll be both in person and virtual. In a KMOX follow-up, the deadline to apply for the private property assistance program in the city after the tornado has been extended.
As we reported last week, the initial deadline was February 14th. Now it's been moved to February 28th. Chief Recovery Officer Julian Nick says, regardless of your income or if you have or don't have insurance, everyone is eligible.
We've also heard a lot of fears around people thinking that this may be an attempt to take property. It is not that. What we will do is we will take your application in, review the services that's been directly requested, and we'll send out certified experts to do structural inspections to check to see what can happen and what's realistic with your property.
Additionally, the city will continue to remove tornado debris placed by the curb until February 28th. Maria Aquina, KMOX News.
The forecast for overnight tonight, we've got a clear sky, chilly conditions, low 42. For tomorrow, sun's out, high 62 degrees. Few showers tomorrow night, low 35 overnight. For Wednesday, a little bit cooler, sunshine, and a high of 50. Right now, we're at 45 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Come on, let's get going now.
From KMOX Sports.
We're primed and ready.
All day, baby.
Man, let's go.
This is the Gray Bar Sports Open Live. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. On 104.1 FM, KMOX.
On a Bridge Sports Open line this evening, after we just got to hear from Josh Schertz and Zach Bovair, head coach and assistant coach, respectively, of the St. Louis Billikens men's basketball team, with the voice of the Billikens, Bob Ramsey from Ballpark Village, on our Billiken Coaches Show for the last hour. The Billikens are off tomorrow, no midweek game this week for them, but they will continue Atlantic 10 play in Chicago on Friday. You heard at the very tail end of that show, Bob talked to them about those tickets selling quickly. Should be a packed house up there at Loyola. Obviously, a good chunk of them likely will be St. Louis fans, and we love to hear that. The Billikens are putting together, as you probably know, a fantastic season, 23-1, 11-0 in the Atlantic 10. They've won 17 games in a row, going back to their only loss of the season on a buzzer beater to Stanford the day after Thanksgiving at a neutral site in Palm Desert, California. They have had some scares in recent weeks in A10 play. 4-point win over Duquesne on the road 3 Tuesdays ago, a game that they looked to have well in hand, but that got tight at the very end. So that one was not quite as scary as the last couple of Tuesday games have been. George Washington at home, a game they trailed by 15, came back to win by 3 on a Robbie Avila buzzer-beating three-pointer, and then beat Davidson on the road last Tuesday, a game they trailed by 13 and by 9 well into the second half, 16-0 run gave them the lead. They eventually won the game by 9 points. In the middle of that, they've had very lopsided wins. They beat St. Bonaventure by 35 on the road between the Duquesne and George Washington close shaves. Then they beat Dayton at home by 31. Then the close game against Davidson, and then blew out LaSalle by 24 on Saturday at Chaffetz Arena, although that was a game that was tighter in the first half as well, as we talked about on Rush Hour Sports with Bernie Miklas. If you missed that or anything else, you can always go back and listen to it on the free Odyssey app in podcast form. If you want to be part of our conversation this evening, you can leave comments on our streams anywhere across the board, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can also call us at 314-436-7900. That's 314-436-7900. Nate Gatter with you, in for Matt Pauley, who is settling in down in Jupiter, Florida, to bring us our Cardinal spring training coverage with pitchers and catchers reporting, and the Redbirds getting ready for their first spring training game a dozen days from now, Saturday the 21st, which incidentally will also be the first regular season game of the season for St. Louis City. They will be at home at Energizer Park to kick off their season Saturday the 21st of February as well. So Nate Gatter with you. John Camp is producing here in our downtown studio. Ryan Leaf will be with us in our next segment to discuss the Super Bowl 29-13 win for the Seahawks over the Patriots yesterday in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. The Seahawks win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. Sam Darnold gets his completion of the reclamation storyline after struggling in New York and Carolina, then having the backup year at San Francisco, which he credits for a lot of his turnaround. Successful season at Minnesota, big contract with Seattle, had another great year, but one that culminated in winning several big games rather than losing them the way the season flamed out last year with the Vikings. But cool for him, even though he didn't play very much as a 49er a couple of years ago, to get the chance at Levi's Stadium, home of the 49ers, to bring this to fruition and win his first Super Bowl after he credits Kyle Shanahan and even Brock Purdy for playing a big role that year in getting his career back on the right track. Though, as we talked about again with Bernie Miklasz on Rush Hour Sports, moving into better situations, better organizations with more talent, better coaching staffs, no doubt played a big role as well his last couple of years, Minnesota and Seattle. John Camp, what were your impressions, your biggest standout storylines coming out of the Seahawks romp over the Pats yesterday?
I just wanted it to be a good game, and it really wasn't for about 3 1/4 quarters, at least until that throw that Drake May had to Mac Hollins for their first score of the game. I thought that was going to be a spark that would have made the game a lot closer, and it just turned out not to be. They just couldn't figure out anything what Seattle was doing. I found it kind of funny, not really funny, I guess. Since I'm a Packers fan, I was just kind of wanting to see a good game. I didn't really have implications on who was winning. But when it comes to San Francisco fans, because I'm sure there were a lot of them in that crowd, you had to watch Seattle beat you, pummel you on the road in the playoffs, and then they use your locker room and win a stadium on your field.
And that's after the Seahawks, just to get the number 1 seed in the first place, had beaten the 49ers rather soundly in Week 18 there in Santa Clara as well. And one of the things that the storylines around that game was, if the Niners had won it, they could have played the rest of their season and won a Super Bowl without going on the road again, without leaving home, because they would have had a bye and then a home game in the divisional round and then a home game in the championship round, and then had a chance to win the Super Bowl at home. In the end, that's not how it worked out, but Seattle came back, and it still was a marginal advantage for Seattle, you would think, playing on the West Coast. Certainly much shorter trip than that for them than it was for the Patriots, although I guess time zones and things don't really matter so much for the Super Bowl because the players are out there so far ahead of time compared to a typical road game that they have a lot of time to adjust and all that. Yeah. To your point about the throw to Mac Hollins for the Patriots' first touchdown, what that made me think in the moment, because that made it 19-7, was if the Patriots defense had been able to do what they had done all game up until the drive right before and kept the Seahawks out of the end zone, if they had forced Seattle to settle for another field goal and it was 15-0 instead of 19-0, that Patriots touchdown actually would have made it a 1-possession game, assuming that they would have still kicked the extra point. Now, if they were being down 19, they should have gone for 2. But if they were down 15, they almost certainly would have gone for 2, because that's kind of the consensus around the NFL analytically now, is if you're going to need a 2-point conversion, if you need 2 touchdowns and 1 2-point conversion, you go for the 2 right away to figure out if you're going to need only 1 or 2 more possessions rather than waiting and staying in the game as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, but I think smartly, I would rather just, the analytics say other things, but I would kick the extra point there if it's 15-0 rather than go for 2. Because if you miss it, and given how much time's on the clock, you may not, knowing like if you need 2 possessions, you're not going to have enough time potentially.
This is an interesting thing, and that's everybody's first instinct. I strongly disagree. And the reason I do, and this is a hypothetical, this is a football analytics discussion more than a Super Bowl discussion, because this situation did not arise. But the reason I disagree is it allows you to make smarter choices in the remaining time, especially in that situation. How much time is left in the game? Like 10 minutes, 12 minutes?
It was around 10 minutes.
Yeah. And at that point, if you know you're down 2 possessions, now you're approaching things differently, right? You're thinking we need to be pretty much perfect from here on out. We need 2 more possessions. We need to score a touchdown on one of them, and we need a field goal or better on the other one.
And you're probably going to have to burn timeouts in the process, depending on what Seattle does.
So your assumption, I think, kicking the ball off, let's say it was like 11 and a half minutes, I think. So let's say 11 minutes left. You're kicking the ball off down by 9. You're thinking we probably are, best case is we're getting the ball 2 more times in this game, right? So we've got to be perfect. It's going to inform your play calling then on that subsequent drive. Let's say you force a 3 and out, and you get the ball back and you drive it to midfield and you have 4th and 6 at midfield. Let's make it 4th and 8. 4th and 8 from midfield, and you're down by 9 with 8 minutes left in the game. Probably going for that.
Oh, you're going for that.
But let's say you're down. Let's say you're down by 8 now with 8 minutes still left in the game. You've got all your timeouts, and it's 4th and 8. You're saying 4th and 8. I don't love my chances, right? What are my odds of converting 4th and 8? Maybe 15%, 20%?
Against that defense, not high.
Something like that. Right. It might be lower, maybe 10%. And Michael Dixon had pinned the Patriots inside the 10 3 times, twice inside the 5.
Yeah.
So maybe you're tempted to have Michael Dixon punt, see if you can pin the Patriots deep, right? And you're saying, well, of course, these are two different situations. The analytics argument is that if you are down 8 and you're making those decisions on, I'm going to punt the ball, you're doing that without knowing if what you need is one more possession or 2, because you might only need 1. It is true in a best case scenario, it's a 1-possession game, but it's a 1-possession game where you score a touchdown and then convert the 2-point conversion. Or you could have gone for the 2 after your first touchdown, and then you know for sure, because then you're either down 9, in which case it's definitely the wrong choice to punt. You go for it, because even if it's a 10% chance of converting that 4th and 8 at midfield, you need it, because you can't expect to get the ball back 2 more times if you punt it there with 8 minutes left, right? You got to go for it. The alternative is if you're down 7 in that situation, then you feel very confident punting is the right decision, because you know for sure, almost certainly this is a 1-possession game, because if you score a touchdown, your odds of making the extra point are what? 95+%, 97%, something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas your odds of getting the 2-point conversion, if you were down 8 and you needed the 2, your odds are going to be, I think in the NFL, it's just slightly below 50. It's like 48% or 49% or something like that. And obviously that's neutral. It doesn't account for how good is your offense, how good is their defense in these situations, whatever. So the principle is you gather that information earlier, because what we imagine, and some people dispute this last piece, in order for this to all make sense, you have to imagine that your odds of getting the 2-point conversion are roughly the same, regardless of when you do it, right? That if you go for 2 with 11 minutes left in the game, down by, I guess at the time of the 2-point conversion, down by 9, or down by 10, would it be 15? No, down by 9, that your odds of converting that are the same as if you go for it with 30 seconds left, having just scored a touchdown to come within 2, and you're going for the tie. So if we assume that those odds are roughly the same, let's say you score the touchdown to go down 15-6, you kick the extra points, 15-7 now, and you are faced with the decision to punt the ball or go for it at midfield, like we've been talking about on 4th and 8, and you punt it. You end up getting the ball back at the end of the game, still down 15-7. You score a touchdown with 20 seconds left in the game. You go for 2, you don't get it. Now you've lost the game, right? Game's over. 20 seconds left. You're down by 2. You've probably burned your timeouts. Game's over. Unless you get a miracle onside kick, you're done. The analytics guys would say, well, if you had known earlier, if we assume that 2-point conversion that just took place with 20 seconds left is the exact same way the play would have gone at 11 minutes, which we don't know. But if we assume you probably would have called the same play, right? It's the Super Bowl. You're calling your best 2-point conversion play. It's probably the same one at 11 minutes as it is at 20 seconds. Right. They're probably calling the same defense. It's the best defense that they got against their 2-point conversion, and what they think you're going to run, that hasn't really changed.
Yeah, and you can't exactly predict what's going to happen.
Right.
If there's still 10 minutes left in the game and you went for 2 and failed, or even if you convert it, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You still have to rely on your defense to get a stop.
The idea is that if you were going to fail either way, if we assume the outcome will be the same, if you're going to fail either way, if you're going to fail with 20 seconds, if you fail with 20 seconds, then you would have also failed with 11 minutes. Failing with 11 minutes as opposed to 20 seconds would have allowed you to play the intervening 10 minutes and 40 seconds differently. Namely, you would have gone for it from midfield on 4th and 8, knowing you need 2 possessions now.
Yeah.
And to me, that makes a lot of sense. It's the relatively rare instance. You probably have to score early enough. If you're scoring in the last 2 minutes down by 2 possessions in this situation, I don't know that it makes a difference, because either way, you're kind of scrambling. But if you do it, if you have enough time, if you have 10 plus minutes left in the fourth quarter, to me, there are going to be a lot of strategic decisions there. And it is possible that you would regret not having that information earlier. But again, some people just reject the premise. Some people say, I don't agree that going for 2 with 11 minutes left and 20 seconds left is the same thing. So this didn't come up in the Super Bowl, but it does come up. This does come up in the NFL from time to time and college football, but it's a bigger discussion. Yeah, Floyd the Barber says, I'm confused on our YouTube. I know. I imagine it is confusing. I should spend some time trying to think about how to explain this the most clearly. I think it's hard to do without visual aids, without like a PowerPoint presentation. I promise you it makes sense in my mind. And the numbers do support this. It's marginal, right? A lot of these things are relatively marginal. But the easiest way to sum it up is you want the information as soon as possible, whether you get it or you don't. You want to know that as early in the game as you possibly can, such that you can then coach the remaining time in the game as optimally as possible, because now you've been given all the information. It's kind of like if you were playing poker, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, 5-card stud, whatever. If you're playing Hold'em and you got the 2 cards and like they flop the cards, right? They put the 3 down initially and then you got 1 more at a time. It's kind of like saying, would you rather know that one of those cards ahead of time? Doesn't change what it's going to be. It could help your hand. It could hurt your hand. But you can then play based on knowing all the cards that are down. It's not quite as good, but it's kind of like that. Maybe that's the easiest way to conceptualize it. Anyway, we got to take a break. We'll talk to Ryan Leaf after this about the Super Bowl, and I promise those discussions will all be about the game that actually happened, not any hypothetical 2-point conversions and why you should go for them at what time. Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
If you're struggling with weight and frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Hypnosis can help. Join the over 500,000 people who have attended Mark Patrick Hypnosis with great weight loss results. Mark Patrick Hypnosis will be in St. Louis on Saturday, March 7th.
Totally changed my life.
It's amazing. I don't have any cravings. You want to quit, but have found it impossible? This is the thing for you. I have absolutely no craving. It's the darndest thing I have ever seen in my life.
It's not for entertainment. It's for results.
Do it. It works. Period.
You've tried everything else. You need to come and try this.
After this hypnosis, I want to eat good food.
Since August, I can honestly say I have not had one potato chip.
It was life-changing for me.
And I don't think about dessert.
Only $59.99. Lose all the weight you want. 100% guaranteed. Saturday, March 7th at the Residence Inn by Marriott, St. Louis Westport in St. Louis. Weight loss hypnosis, 11 a.m. Registration, 10:30 a.m. Attend this program and find out how the power of hypnosis can help you achieve your weight loss goals. There's limited seating, so get there early. Learn more at markpatrickseminars.com.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
This is Tom Ackerman for Ophthalmology Associates. You know, the doctors, or just the best doctors to see for your best vision in St. Louis. 314-966-5000, the doctors. They've treated more than 250 doctors. That's more than any other practice. Dr. Greg Birdie, Dr. Ranjan Malhotra, Dr. Robert Bersati, Dr. Andy Royer. 314-966-5000 is their phone number. 314-966-5000. Dr. Birdie, Dr. Malhotra are cornea surgeons and experts in diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the eye, dry eye, allergy eye, cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, LASIK surgery. The Doctors of Ophthalmology Associates, experts. Call for an appointment today, 314-966-5000, or visit them online, youridoc.com, 12990 Manchester Road, quarter mile west of 270. 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com.
Make dinner, not reservations. Kenrick's Meat Market's complete Valentine's Day meal, including premium steak, side, salad, and dessert. Cook your perfect steak at home, all for only $59.99. Mention KMOX and receive a free bottle of wine, only at Kenrick's Meat Market.
Retiring soon? Get the information you need by joining Kyle Jones and Matt Allgeier of Fire Capital Management for your retirement highway, Sunday mornings at 9:30. Investment advisory services made available through Pine Ridge Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities made available through AE Financial Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC.
Built on a century, focused on today. The voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Gray Bar Sports Open Line rolls on this evening on KMOX. Nate Gatter back with you in for Matt Pauley on his way down to Jupiter to kick off our Cardinals spring training coverage this week. We are joined by former NFL quarterback and Washington State Cougar Ryan Leaf to talk about the Seahawks' resounding 29-13 win over the Patriots in the Super Bowl last night. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm lovely, Nate. Good to talk to you, buddy.
The Seahawks just took care of that game, didn't they? I mean, Patriots kept off the scoreboard for 3 quarters, only 12 combined points put on the board, all Seahawks field goals before the fourth quarter when the scoring picked up a bit. In some ways, it's tempting to call it a boring game, but it's the kind of game that the Seahawks won against almost everybody they played down the stretch, with the notable exception of their 3 meetings against the Rams. For the most part, against other opponents, including in the playoffs, they just suffocated their opponents.
You know, I use that word, too, describing what the defense seemed to do to Drake May in that offense. And they really did. They just sucked the air out of the room, suffocated that offense into being something completely different than what we saw all season long. So, you know, it was tremendous. The story, of course, is the Sam Darnold story because of everything he had gone through. And it's something I can really relate to. It's why I think his story is so inspirational, just because, you know, having to wear that anchor of what people perceive to be a draft bust is always so debilitating. And it didn't affect him. It never affected him. He always went back to the lab, went back to Jordan Palmer in Southern California every offseason, put in the work, got better, fundamental skill set, the technique, and you know, it didn't matter. Even when you go out and win 14 games last year, Minnesota still says, nope, not good enough. And finally, there was a team, the Seattle Seahawks, that said, yeah, Sam, you're good enough, and we're going to give the guys to support you. And Clint Kubiak came in and gave him the offense to run. And what a story. This game and last night's performance, I think, is the epitome of what an ultimate team game is about, and that was the ultimate team performance last night.
Ryan Leaf is with us on KMOX. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan D. Leaf, NFL analyst for Westwood One. Also see his college football coverage. You can see him filling in across the airwaves on any number of radio outlets wherever you get him. Just go to at Ryan D. Leaf on Twitter, and you'll know where he's going to pop up next. Talking about Sam Darnold, how about the fact that Seahawks offense did it only getting 27 receiving yards from Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was, of course, banged up, missed stretches of the second half. They got 135 yards on the ground, more than 160 total yards from Kenneth Walker, the game's MVP, and then Darnold found other ways to get it done for them, and then Jason Myers didn't miss.
Yeah, it was just, like I said, it was a complete team game. You look at even the punter and Dixon, he put 2 back inside the 5-yard line in this game. I mean, every aspect of this game is a team concept won last night. They played with incredible defense. They stopped the run, and I think that was the most important piece, because then what they could do, and they stopped the run with 2 safeties back. And when you do that, you don't ever have to come out of coverage. And then you can just pin your ears back with 4 guys getting the pressure on and bring some exotic blitzes, some blitzes that they may have not seen necessarily recently, and got to Drake May and really made him uncomfortable early. Not only did they make him uncomfortable, he just seemed out of sorts from the beginning in terms of his accuracy. Led the league with almost 72% completion percentage, and was just like the ball was like on a string for him last night in terms of how he was guiding it. He was trying too hard to make the perfect pass or just kind of lay it into somebody's hands. And in doing that, he was very inaccurate. outside of one throw, I think, to Mac Hollins over the middle when it was between like 6 defenders. So, I mean, it was just a tremendous team effort. You start up and down from the running game to the passing game, and it didn't matter if Jackson Smith-Njigba was the guy, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Barner, or their running backs and Kenneth Walker or George Holani. They were the difference makers, and it was a pretty special performance. I shouldn't say not everybody. I just didn't see a way for New England to be able to overcome this defense and the pressure. And they got lucky. They got, some late points that added to that. That game easily could have been a shutout for the first time in Super Bowl history.
You mentioned the pressure that they put on Drake May and how uncomfortable they made him. He had 2 interceptions, including the one in the fourth quarter that was just floated over the middle to nobody that Julian Love picked off, that left Chris Collinsworth on the NBC broadcast unable to explain what had just happened and how something like that could happen. And not that the Patriots had a good chance to win at that point, but they were not completely out of the game prior to that interception. As somebody who's been in that situation where you've taken a lot of sacks in a game, you've been playing behind an offensive line who wasn't keeping guys out of the pocket, getting sacked 6 times in the Super Bowl on that stage the way he did, what does that do to you mentally and physically by the fourth quarter to contribute to a lame duck interception like that?
Yeah, it was odd because it was a crosser. So unless he thought that crosser was hooking up in that zone right in the middle there, I don't understand why that ball was thrown to that spot. Because if he would have let him and gone to the green spot out to the right, it very well could have been a big play on that play, but it was just odd. There had to have been a miscommunication between the receiver and the quarterback in terms of what he thought he was going to do, because he threw that ball thinking that the receiver was going to stop in that zone right between all those defenders. Instead, he kept on running. The ball flew directly over his head right in to Julian Love, who made the pick.
It's tempting, obviously, with the Patriots to think about how easily they could be back in this situation because they have the second-year quarterback who's controllable on cost, and so they can build around him until they're going to have to give him the big contract extension that will be coming a few years down the line. They seem to have one of the best head coaches in the league in Mike Vrabel. On the other hand, they played one of the worst schedules in NFL history this year to help them get there. And even outside of all of that, if there's one thing that we have seen throughout NFL history, when quarterbacks lose Super Bowls, it's difficult to get back to them. It's very difficult to win them. Think about how things have gone for Cincinnati since the Bengals were oh so close to winning a Super Bowl early in Joe Burrow's career. And now they're on the outside looking into the entire playoff picture. You wonder for the Patriots what they can do to try to maximize this window before Drake May needs the big money extension.
Well, I think that the optics in which you choose to look through it is important. So you could look through it through the optics of Cincinnati, or you could look through the optics of Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts loses in that Super Bowl to Kansas City and then comes back a year later or 2 years later and wins the Super Bowl and is the MVP. So that's the optics you have to look at through. You have to be optimistic. So many things have to go right for your team. Injuries, the right, coordinators and things of that such. I thought Josh McDaniels got absolutely outsmarted, out-coached last night. That's a big part of this because he's been in these games before, and these big games like this. And he did not have a pressure plan for Drake May because anytime there was any sort of blitz pressure, guys were coming free. And I haven't had a chance to look at the All-22 to see if those were supposed to be picked up or if they were just busts on the offensive line. But it didn't matter. You should have a guy breaking flat or coming across the middle to give you a pressure read to get rid of the football. So you're not holding it there. And unfortunately, they just didn't have a plan in place, and they looked foolish. And that was odd to see from Josh McDaniels, who's been in these situations so many times throughout his career.
You mentioned the coaching, and it's a really interesting conversation. I think everybody around football is enthralled by what a job Mike Macdonald has done in Seattle, especially with that defense and how he schemes things. And he's part of an interesting, larger conversation because he's not even 40 years old yet. And he's a guy who didn't play even college football, let alone professional football. 16 years ago, he was graduating Georgia, just sniffing around the football offices, hoping somebody would give him an opportunity to do something. It was only 12 years ago that he first got to the NFL as an intern with the Baltimore Ravens. But we see this a lot more around the league, especially at the professional level, that coaches who did not play the sport in the pros or maybe even in college are able to excel. What do you think is different now about players accepting coaching from guys who didn't play at a high level compared to, say, when you were playing? Do you think guys would have been equally willing to accept coaching from somebody like Mike McDonald, a guy only a few years older than them who didn't play?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you can look around at all your coaches in your lifetime, and predominantly most of them didn't play, or if they did, it wasn't at any sort of great level. It's not about that. This is about leadership. This is about leadership skills and the ability to lead men and get the most out of them. My college coach, wasn't a player. He got into coaching immediately when he was in college, and he absolutely was the best motivator of men I'd ever been around to get the most out of anybody. It didn't matter where you were from, or anything of that nature. He motivated you and got the best out of you. It was so special to be a part of that. So when you find that, listen, everybody that I've talked to and all the interviews I heard from players after the game last night kind of talked about the changing culture he brought to the table. I mean, there were some stories written in year one when he removed a lot of the pictures of like the legacy guys and the Legion of Boom and stuff, and word got out, and Richard Sherman was pretty upset about it, and other people were pretty upset about it, but he was trying to say the people in this room within this facility are what the most important pieces of the puzzle are. And it ruffled some feathers. His OTA practices were very intense and very physical, and guys were questioning that a little bit. But as it turned out, it was the right recipe. It was the right chemistry to get these guys to play to their fullest, and they peaked at the right time. They played their best football down the stretch, heading into the playoffs, and then in the playoffs in themselves. So you got to compliment him, and I don't think anybody should ever question a coach because they develop leadership skills and things like that outside of necessarily ever having to have played the game before.
Ryan Leaf is with us on KMOX. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan D. Leaf. Ryan, just one more before I let you go, because we mentioned Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, now going to become the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, he deserves a lot of credit for what Sam Darnold and this offense did this year. In bigger picture, getting away from the Super Bowl specifically, are there any other names who stand out, or does Clint Kubiak take the cake as the most exciting new head coaching hire of the offseason for you?
Well, I think this job's not very good, first off. So that's a big part of this. You are taking a head coaching job, and you go into a situation. Is he Ben Johnson? Can he go and apply with what he did? You better have a great quarterback. Caleb Williams is a great quarterback. Is Mendoza going to be that guy? Well, what Kubiak does a really good job with, and it's what helped bring along Sam Darnold, is that he can cover up for you. He can help make things easier for you, and then he can really, when he finds things that are that you're really good at, he can stack plays that really play to your strengths. And when he wants to be aggressive, he feels comfortable with being aggressive because he's got confidence in you to make the plays in big situations. And that's exactly what they got out of Sam Darnold. So that's what you would expect there. I still think the best job in the biz this year was the Buffalo Bills job that came open. I really do. I think that they have arguably the best quarterback. The Baltimore Ravens job with Lamar Jackson, like those are established spots with really good quarterback play. 2 former MVPs over the last 3 years. And so those 2 spots for me were the best landing spots. Joe Brady and Minter, in this case, I think ended up in the best spots with a chance to go out and do something similar like Mike Vrabel or like Mike McDonald in year 1 or year 2.
Ryan, we appreciate you. Thanks a lot for being with us.
You bet, buddy. Good to hear from you.
Ryan Leaf joining us here on KMOX. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan D. Leaf. When we come back, more Gray Bar Sports Open Line. We will continue talking Super Bowl and visit some of Josh Schertz's comments from the last hour here on KMOX during his coach's show talking about the St. Louis Billikens. All of that and more to come on KMOX.
Hey guys, it's Dave from The Glover Show, trying to explain The Glover Show. So when I was a younger man, I used to go to happy hour almost every night, and I loved it. And I've always thought of my show as being like happy hour. It's always interesting. It's often silly, but not always. There are real things to talk about. I am amongst friends, politics, and personal things. So that's what it is, really. It's happy hour for thousands of us every day between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. And I hope you'll tune in and join the happy hour.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait and don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This Valentine's Day, create a space that feels warm and welcoming with help from Menards. Whether it's a small refresh or a big project, Menards has the tools and materials you need. Build something together and make your home a place you both love coming back to. Don't forget the sweets for your sweetheart. Get a 6-ounce bag of Russell Stover chocolate candies for $3.99 now through February 14th. Save big money and finish your projects together at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Mozart's The Magic Flute comes to life in concert with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. Under the baton of music director Stefan Deneve, hear one of Mozart's most brilliant scores performed in all its richness, with the St. Louis Symphony Chorus and St. Louis Children's Choirs bringing its unforgettable characters to life. February 20th and 22nd at Powell Hall at the Jack C. Taylor Music Center. Tickets at slso.org.
What if you had a plan to build income outside your job? At Lifestyles Unlimited, you'll learn how people are investing in real estate to grow their income and make smarter financial choices one property at a time. Right now, join us for just $297. That's a savings of $443 off our real estate education program. Text RADIO to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007. Presented by Lifestyles Unlimited.
I'm Piera Palazzolo, VP of Digital Marketing for the American Management Association, a company focused on the management training skills needed to enhance the careers of business professionals. We did our research when it came to the best companies for website development and chose AmericanEagle.com. And we couldn't be happier. AmericanEagle.com worked closely with us to understand the front and back end requirements needed to launch an e-commerce website that could handle the complexities of running thousands of seminars nationwide. Our robust new website and improved SEO saw immediate increases in site traffic and web revenue. If you're in need of managerial effectiveness and success, visit our website at amanet.org. If you're in need of a website that provides an unparalleled consumer experience, I highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Transform your business today. Dial 877-WEBNOW1 for a free digital consultation with AmericanEagle.com.
Hey, it's Matt Pauley. Cardinals pitchers and catchers are about to report to spring training in Jupiter, Florida, and I'll be there bringing you everything you need to know.
Listen for Matt's reports throughout the day, starting Tuesday. Sponsored by St. Louis Composting and Happy Roof on the voice of the Cardinals, KMOX.
We continue on Gray Bar Sports Open Line this evening. Nate Gatter with you in for Matt Pauley, who is down in Florida getting ready for our Cardinals spring training coverage. We're with you for another 15 minutes or so, taking you to the top of the hour. Mentioned that Josh Schertz was on the air with us from 6 to 7 on our Billiken Coaches Show with Bob Ramsey. Zach Bovair, assistant coach, joined as well. No direct discussion, obviously, in that context of the rumors of rumors even is overstating it. I don't think there are rumors of Josh Schertz and other jobs. I think there are people speculating, which is really not the same thing. A rumor implies that that at least someone at some point thought there was something to it, right? Nobody's reporting anything. Nobody's rumoring anything. They're just random people speculating. And he has commented on it in other forums, basically saying you can't control that kind of thing. It's going to happen when you have the kind of success that the Billikens have been having. 23-1 this year, 11-0 in the A10, winners of 17 in a row going into their Friday night matchup on the road against Loyola Chicago. That game will tip at 7:30 Friday night. We'll have the pregame at 7:15 right here on KMOX. Then at Rhode Island next Tuesday. And then the following Friday, the 20th, their next home game, the Billiken blew out against VCU. What stood out to me from his comments today actually has nothing to do with, whether Josh Schertz would leave for another job or not. And we can talk about that. Maybe we'll wrap up the show with that. It's a conversation we're going to be having more later on at the end of this season. For now, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I don't want to distract or detract from a 23-1 team, because that kind of thing doesn't come along very often. In fact, it's never come along at SLU. And so we should appreciate it while it's here, and we includes me. At the same time, I don't think it's wrong to be aware of what's out there and to be thinking about why he would or wouldn't go. What are the incentives to stay? What are the incentives to leave? I don't think it's wrong to be aware of those things and to talk about them a little bit. I do think it's wrong to do it at the expense of focusing on what has been great about this year. And I feel the same with players, right? There's nothing wrong with acknowledging if you have a freshman or sophomore at a low major or even a mid-major, high mid-major level like what SLU is, but certainly at a lower mid-major, right? If you have a guy who is in the OVC and is balling out as a freshman or sophomore, putting up 15-plus points a game, playing great defense, whatever, it's not wrong to acknowledge that that guy is going to have opportunities to go to bigger schools and make more money. I mean, that's just the reality of the sport right now. Whether we want it to be that way or not is beside the point. That's what it is. But I think you have to be or should be mindful of dwelling on that sort of thing to such a degree that you're disrespecting whatever's happening in front of you. First of all, because it's not respectful of the value of those teams and those conferences, right? Great basketball, impactful basketball can happen anywhere, right? I don't know how many of you have popped over to, watch any Division III sports. I used to walk over to WashU growing up as a kid and pop in to watch some of their great teams in whatever sport. And basketball on the men's and women's side, they were fantastic and often still are. Great basketball can happen there. Certainly great basketball can happen in the gym at Lindenwood or SIUE or SEMO or wherever. Certainly, at the Division I level, great basketball can happen there. SIUE and SEMO have both been in the tournament in recent years. Great things can happen. Those are meaningful. Those can change schools. They can change lives for players and coaches. They're special things. So I'm not going to take anything away from those things. I also think it's just on a human level, even if we said you're not treating those schools like they're lesser or those conferences like they're lesser, or even if you don't care about those things, if you say they are lesser and so that's how they get treated, it just is what it is. Regardless, the last thing is it's always worthwhile to be where your feet are. And Josh Schertz has talked about that on other outlets. Because none of us know, in the spirit of SLU fans this year, you don't know if you'll ever see a season like this again for the Billikens in your lifetime. And in the spirit of that hypothetical kid in the OVC dropping 16 points a game as a freshman, if you spend that whole season wondering what power conference school he's going to go to and get a bag in the offseason in the portal, well, you might forget to enjoy him, and he could break his leg in March, right? And never be the same player. You don't know. Just appreciate what's happening in front of you in some cases. So I do want to be mindful of that. We will get to a little bit of conversation about what does the future look like and why for Josh Schertz. Not that I know what the future looks like, but what might it look like and why. The thing that I really want to talk about from his comments on KMOX earlier are about how he developed as a coach. They have nothing to do with any of these sort of broader scale discussions in college basketball. It's sort of much more niche coaching discussion, which is that he came up at the Division II level. He had very little Division I experience, and he had never been a head coach at the Division I level until he had already been coaching for a while at Lincoln Memorial in Tennessee at the D2 level. He got a ton of head coaching experience in D2 before he ever got a taste in D1 at Indiana State. Still, he's had maybe half as many seasons as a Division I head coach now as he did at Division II, maybe not even quite as half. And on top of that so many of his coaching staff hires were developmental. They were guys who maybe played in his program or helped out around the program, became GAs, and then became assistant coaches for him. And that was the pipeline. So he had just very little experience on other people's staffs and very, very little experience bringing in outsiders as his assistants. So he didn't have a great sense necessarily until he got to Indiana State and brought in some outside guys as assistants for how oddly he was doing certain things, or oddly relative to what was typical around Division I in terms of how he likes to run his practices, his offseason programs, how he likes to handle film, how he likes to travel on before day of game and make sure that they're there for a practice the day before. All of those things, very, very interesting. And it speaks to what an unconventional coach Josh Schertz is in so many ways, and how sometimes that is developed by not having too many outside influences. It reminds me, this is broadcasting, not coaching, but the same principle applies. Vin Scully, the legendary late Dodgers announcer, would talk about the one piece of advice that he got from Red Barber, who was the Brooklyn Dodgers announcer when they first brought in Vin Scully right out of college in his early 20s to be the number 3 announcer. And then Scully ultimately moved with the team to LA, and that's where he really made his name. But this time the Dodgers were still in Brooklyn. And Red Barber told him, you only have one thing in the booth that no one else has. All right, we might be able to rattle off a lot of great attributes of Vin Scully as an announcer, but he said you only have one thing that no one else has, and that's yourself. No one else is you. So don't listen to other announcers. Don't spend a bunch of time listening to every other guy and trying to copy things that they do or take things from them or be influenced in any way, because what you have is yourself and the way that you do things naturally. So do them your way. And that's the only way you can be assured that you'll be original in that sense. I think that's very, very interesting, and it applies to, in some ways, what Josh Schertz has talked about with what makes him an original as a coach. We'll take a break, wrap up with just a couple of minutes on what that coaching future might look like for Josh Schertz and why. Stay with us on KMOX.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply or price stop, opt out.
This is an important message for all parents of teens. If your teen or preteen is or has been addicted to social media sites such as Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, or YouTube, and they have suffered from eating disorders, body image issues, anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, you may be eligible to participate in a lawsuit for significant compensation. Disclosures by a Facebook whistleblower show Instagram and Facebook know their social media platforms were highly addictive and may have caused eating disorders, body image issues, depression, and suicidal ideation. It appears these social media companies knew they had been causing serious harm to kids, but have done little to stop it. If your teen has been harmed by social media like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, or YouTube, then you could be eligible for significant compensation. If you'd like to discuss a lawsuit, text LEVEL to 323232, LEVEL to 323232, LEVEL to 323232.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson, Media Advertising Specialists, LLC, is responsible for the content of this ad with principal offices in Chicago, Illinois.
Zero Res wants to give your home the love and attention it deserves. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119. Take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Book online at ZeroResSTL.com and mention the KMOX special.
For 100 years, KMOX has been a part of St. Louis. Now, those moments live on, preserved, remastered, and ready to be heard again. Discover KMOX from the Archives, a podcast featuring classic audio from a century of service.
Sponsored by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis, the genuine, the original.
The KMOX from the Archives podcast, available now at KMOX100.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Humane Society of Missouri's Day of Giving is just around the corner. On this day, your favorite local TV station will highlight incredible rescue stories of animals fighting to survive, stories of courage, resilience, and hope. Visit the Humane Society website to watch these powerful stories and see the life-saving work made possible by compassionate donors like you. These stories underscore why it's so vital to support the HSMO. Go to KMOX.com/events today for more information.
When it comes to planning your retirement, there's a lot to think about. Portfolio management, tax planning, and retirement income just to get started. Steve All and his team at the All Financial Group focus on those things and more. Their goal is to help you achieve your goals. Call 636-230-8824 or online, yourmoneymattersstl.com.
Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Steve All, NPN number 153-07419.
Turning 50 doesn't mean slowing down. It means getting smarter about your health. That's why we created NeoVitan Men's 50 Plus Multivitamin. It's doctor formulated to support your energy, immune health, and overall vitality. Plus, it's made in the U.S. using the finest domestic and international ingredients. Take control of your health with supplements you can trust. Look for NeoVitan Men's 50 Plus at your local Schnucks, Dierbergs, or online at neovitan.com. NeoVitan, made for men who keep moving forward.
Let's be honest. The hearing aid industry is broken. Overpriced clinics, pushy appointments, bills of $5,000 or more. That's the trap they hope you fall into. Don't let it happen. Audien Hearing is the escape. Their FDA-registered hearing aids cost just a fraction of the big brands, starting at only $98. Instead of paying as much as $5,000 plus all the doctor appointments and wasted time, you get what you need with no prescriptions, no office visits, no time wasted, and no crazy price tag. Call 800-700-HERE. That's HEAR. Audien's cutting-edge devices are rechargeable, comfortable, and ready to use right out of the box. Try them risk-free for 45 days with lifetime support and real human help just a phone call away. Over 1 million people have already said yes to Audien Hearing. Join them. Don't let them take advantage of you. Break free from the trap. Call now 800-700-HERE. That's HEAR for a very special offer. 800-700-HEAR or 800-700-4327.
I'm Debbie Monterey, and I see more clearly thanks to the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates. Make your appointment today at 314-966-5000 or online at youridoc.com.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Once again, Nate Gatter in for Matt Pauley this evening, but I promise Matt will be back with you tomorrow from Jupiter. Just a minute here to wrap up. Promise we talk about Josh Schertz and his future. There's not a lot of nuance that can be had in 60 seconds that we have left, but I'll tell you this. I don't think Josh Schertz is leaving for Providence. I don't think he's leaving for Cincinnati. I don't even think he's leaving for Syracuse. If Josh Schertz leaves the Billikens, I think it's going to be for a place where he feels like he can compete for national championships annually or close to annually, where he's going to get that much more NIL backing, where his tradition is that much better, where his recruiting is going to be that much easier, all of those things. I don't think he's leaving just to get maybe a short-term raise and maybe not even. I think SLU's going to be able to match a lot of those kind of short-term benefits that he would get from moving to a middle-of-the-pack power conference school. And I think those are the kind of jobs that if he ever changes his mind, he could get in any given offseason. The Providences, Cincinnati's of the world, those are going to be out there for Josh Schertz any given April that he wants them. He can afford to wait for something better. Hope you've enjoyed this abridged Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Thanks to Ryan Lee for joining us and to John Camp for producing. I'm Nate Gatter saying so long. This has been Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, haven't seen you around the gym for a while.